Hello viewers and welcome to this raw blog. Now it's a blog, but you see I call it raw blog. Why do you call it raw blog, people say? Well, I say because it's my vlog and I can call it what I want and I call it raw blog. So there you go. Well, happy holidays. We're into December, and of course, I love the holiday season. This is another one of my favorite holiday magazines. It's Country Homes and Interiors, but it's from Great Britain. So if you look forward to that store, this isn't this year's edition. It's a couple of years ago, but you have to always look for it to say British edition. British edition. And this is British. See this little teapot right here, this red one? I have the very same things. It was my Aunt Wilma's, only it's white, with a little blue line around the lid. But it's the very same. It's the very same. You see it? It's metal. I have that very same one. I like it when that happens. When I have something that is in a magazine, especially on the cover. You know something else that I like? Excuse me. Threw it on the floor. This is something else I really like. One of my favorite Christmas things are bottle brush trees. Now this is a bottle brush tree. I don't know. I've had this since Jesus was a choir boy a long time. But it's a lovely little bottle brush tree, which is tough to say if you think about it. Bottle brush tree. Careful. But I have quite a few of these, and I have a couple of really old ones, but I kind of like them. And, you know, they're so easy because you go to a mantle, you have a half dozen bottle brush trees, just set them in between little things you have now. Poof. It looks like the holidays. Bottle brush tree. I like them. I hope everything's going well for you. What we're doing, if you joined us in the last episode, once again this year, we're going through Dickens' A Christmas Carol. Now, not probably as heavily as last year, but we're still doing that. Oh, you know what I just noticed? You see out this window? You see this right here? Those flashing lights out there is a big, huge, I think I did a vlog on this, a big, huge 8.5-foot tall deer, stag with big antlers, and that's what it looks like. It's twinkling away in the front yard right here. Oh, isn't that nice? I'll just let it twinkle as I read. So we're going to get right to a bit of A Christmas Carol. Yesterday, the main thing that we had to remember with yesterday's A Christmas Carol, Charles Dickens, A Ghost Story of Christmas, is that Marley was dead. That's it. D-E-A-D, dead. That's all we needed to take from that first one. Now, the other thing we have to remember that when this is taking place, this particular stave one, it was a dark, dank, ruddy. It was kind of like what today was on the island. Today was dull, overcast, lots of fog here on the mountain, and it went to about 4 or 5 degrees, but it was chilly and it kind of chilled you through to the bone. This is the situation where Mr. Scrooge finds himself in right now, sitting in his office, freezing his little patooties off because he's so cheap to put a proper fire in that he's cold. And that's what he's doing right now. He's sitting and he's freezing. And as he's freezing, the door to his counting house, he kept it open so he could look across the hall and see Bob Cratchit. Bob Cratchit! He was in the little place across the way. And he had a very small fire. Bob was also freezing his patooties off as well. And that's not very nice, is it? I mean, you have an employee, you have to keep them happy. And I can imagine working all day long in it dark, dank, and cold. I can't imagine what that would be like. So they were sitting there, Scrooge in his office, and Bob Cratchit, Mr. Scrooge and Bob Cratchit in their offices, when all of a sudden the front door opens and this guy with this huge, boisterous, happy holiday voice says, "A Merry Christmas, Uncle, and God save you." Well, or whoever else is around, you know. Well, it was Scrooge's nephew. Yeah, and Scrooge knew that too. He went, "Oh my God, holy you know what. Now the nephew's coming." As if I'm not cold enough and I didn't make 1,000 pounds today and I'm down, you know, that's what it is. Bah humbug, Mr. Scrooge. That's what he said. Bah humbug. Yeah, humbug. That's what he said. And the nephew just didn't like that. He was in a happy holiday mood. And he said, "Christmas a humbug, Uncle? You don't mean that, I'm sure." Well, Scrooge says, "I do mean that. Merry Christmas. The right of you to be merry," said his nephew. "What reason do you have you're poor enough." What do you care? Why are you happy? Humbug. Bah, humbug. This part upsets me because, Scrooge didn't have a lot of friends, and this is a nephew. I mean, really, he needs to watch his Q's and P's and his humbugs. Oh, and the nephew says, don't be cross at me, uncle. It is the holiday season. And Scrooge, Mr. Scrooge, he says, well, what can I be when we live in a world such as this? Fools going around saying, Merry Christmas, bah, humbug. Out upon a Merry Christmas, he says. Well, Christmas is a time, and Mr. Scrooge is right at this point. It is a time for paying bills without enough money. Keep that in mind, will you, ladies and gentlemen, when you're out shopping. If you can't pay cash for it, either now or when the holiday season is over, or before your next credit card bill comes in, if you cannot pay cash, do not buy it. Cash, or if you're putting it on your credit card, you better be prepared to pay it off at the end of the month. I say that, and so does Mr. Scrooge. That part, I agree with him. And, it's hard in Mr. Scrooge's position to think about how can you be merry when you have nothing? I mean, you're balancing your books, your checkbook. I've never been able to balance a checkbook in my entire life. So once again, I kind of understand where he's coming from. But he's still a bit of a Scrooge, isn't he? Yes. Scrooge says, if I could work my will, I would take every idiot who goes around with Merry Christmas on his lips, I would take them and I would boil them in their own pudding. Well, that's not a nice picture, is it? And bury them with a stake of holly right through the heart. Well, don't hold back. Ebenezer, don't hold back. I mean, let's hear what you really feel about Christmas and people. Well, the nephew just said, Uncle, this is absolutely ridiculous that you're feeling this way. And he says, I just don't know why you just, don't enjoy Christmas. And Uncle Scrooge says, Mr. Scrooge, he said, you keep Christmas in your way and I will keep it in mine. And the nephew said, but you don't keep it. He says, well, leave me alone then. Oh, dear. Anyways, the nephew went on, and finally it just got to be what he was saying was so true and good that Bob Cratchit across the way started to applaud, which I think was kind of cute. But Scrooge said, I'm telling you, Bob Cratchit, one more bit of applause and jumping up and doing the heel and fling in that office and trying to be merry, and you will lose your situation. Well, there you go. Losing the situation. Well, eventually the nephew left, and as he did, he just managed to say, and a Merry Christmas, Uncle. And Mr. Scrooge says, good afternoon. And he says, and a Happy New Year. And Scrooge says, good afternoon. Well, the nephew left with not an angry word, and he had invited him to come round on Christmas Day to enjoy themselves with Mr. Scrooge. Now, I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag and tell you the ending of it. Let's just hope that Scrooge mellows and goes for Christmas afternoon. At this point, I don't think there's too much hope in that. Then Scrooge kind of started talking to himself. I mean, maybe he had maybe he had a bottle in his drawer in his desk. And he just said, there's my nephew, what's he got to be happy about? And you, Bob Cratchit, across the way there, 15 shillings a week and a family support. And you're talking about a Merry Christmas. Humbug. He says, a Merry Christmas, I'll retire to Bedlam. Bedlam, that's just up the Island Highway about 45 minutes or so. Anyways, that's going to be it for today. We moved the story along just a little bit, viewers, and we're going to get to the end of the story by Christmas Eve. And that's where Mr. Scrooge is now. Thank you for tuning in today. Remember, with the money, be careful how you spend your money. If you haven't got it, don't spend it. You still will have a merry, happy holiday season. And that's it for now. We'll see you next time on this Rob Blog. Take care of yourselves. Bye now. Bye.